What's up, kids? Anthony Laporta Jr. In-Home Fitness and Health. This video is from a friend for, 13 years at this point, former client, on and off client, Dan Guiney. So we're talking about tight hip flexors, okay? These are the muscles that are at the top of your thigh, the quad, okay, that run through this hip joint, and they are basically responsible for a hip flexion. And when you sit and do things along those lines, you are shortening your hip flexors, okay? So throughout the day, many people, especially in America, if you're sitting a lot, if you commute to work, plus you sit at dinner, you sit to watch TV, you are shortening your hip flexors and you are lengthening your glutes. So this is double problem that you are incurring pretty much every day of your life. So we wind up with short, weak, tight hip flexors and long, flabby, weak glutes. So we want to do things to stretch and lengthen the hip flexor, and we want to do things to tighten and firm the glutes. So the first place that I would tell you to start, okay, we're going to look at a foam roller. And if you have access to, even better than your traditional foam roller, would be a posture ball, okay? Posture ball, I think this is 8-inch, and then there's a 6-inch. I got them from Perform Better. These work great. It is the same material as the foam roller, but this is really good to get in the shoulders and the hip. So what I would do is I would spend some time in some pain, and I would be basically driving and massaging into that hip flexor region. You want to stay off your groin, even stay off the lower abdomen. Focus on the very top in this like joint in here, okay? So left to right, up and down. You're doing self-massage, or what's known as myofascial release. If you don't have access to this, you can use the hip flexors, can be rolled with your traditional roller. I just find that the ball gets it a little bit better. And guess what? If you don't have either of those, maybe you have a medicine ball. This works too. And believe it or not, I've also used, quite painfully, a bowling ball. So softball, whatever you can use to get in that joint and massage those ligaments, tendons, the fascia, to get that loosened up. Okay, so now once that's loosened up, we're ready to stretch it. So what I want to do is do very basic hip flexor stretch that if you don't follow the cueing, you won't feel it very much. So you'll see a lot of people do this. If you're watching me from the side, okay, and I'm going to drive into this leg here, and it appears to be stretching here, but it's very minimal. I don't have much going on in that hip flexor, and I get a little bit of stretch, but not very much. So how do we take this up a notch, okay? What I'm going to do first is stay tall and tuck my pelvis under. So you don't want to be in this position where you're dumping your pelvis. You want to be tucked under. So I'm tightening the glutes. And then I'm going to stay tall. Don't lean into it. And drive forward. I'm still continuing to squeeze that bottom left glute, right? Now I've got a much better stretch in that hip flexor, and I can reach. If I reach this arm up, I'm connecting to everything that runs through that kinetic chain, down the lat, through the core, and into that hip flexor. So let's take that up even more. I have a simple piece of PVC here. You can do this with a broom, a hockey stick, whatever. If you have a towel, doesn't really matter. Don't worry, you don't get fancy and complicated. So let's switch sides, okay? I'm gonna lock up that glute, and as I come forward, again, I'm not leaning, staying tall. I should start to feel that hip flexor stretch, and I stretch over the top. That gives me a nice stretch. Let's take it up a little bit more intense. What I'm going to do now, as I lean in, is I'm going to rotate. You rotate at the up leg, because if I rotate this way, I'm shortening those hip flexors. So, as I come in and I get that nice stretch, I'm going to rotate. Now I got a great stretch through the hip flexors. So I can go up or I can rotate. To me, my favorite that really gets a full body stretch in here, although I hate the word full body because nothing works everything, but you'll feel a lot of different muscle groups, including that hip flexor, is if, as I come forward, I will come around and point the downside of this at the back heel. Okay, so I got a really good stretch. Over the top, rotate, and the more aggressive combo. You get a lot of T-spine rotation here. Once you're done with all of that, you would lay on the ground, on your back, do some glute bridges, do some body weight squats, do some kettlebell swings. You want to just reactivate and turn the glutes on. So what I just did, took the knots out of your fascia, stretched out those very tight hip flexors, and you want to finish with the opposing muscle group, the large glutes, where you do something to get them firing. It's an activation exercise, that would be the correct term. Activate the glutes, and that will help the hip flexors stay more, gain more benefit from what you just did with the myofascial release and the static stretching. I would say you want to hold the stretch for 30 to 60 seconds, depending on how tight you are. And you want to do, whatever number of reps you feel you have time to do and will solve your problem. It's going to be different for everybody. And finally, you can do some that are more active, okay? Make it a little bit more active. Active meaning instead of holding it for 30 seconds, I can actually get in here, right? And just be active. So here's where I'm just moving, right? So before I'm gonna do maybe a more complicated workout that includes kettlebells and dumbbells and sandbags and all sorts of fun stuff, I'll be active at the end of that stretch. It also depends on, am I doing this right before my workout or a separate mobility day? So if it's a separate mobility day, you can keep it all static. You can hold the stretches longer and you can do more reps. If it's part of your workout, you just kind of want to grease the groove, get everything lubricated and moving, get the glutes firing, and then get after your workout. So I like to do, at my age, I will do a push workout, a pull workout, and a recovery mobility day, and then repeat. And guess what? If I'm still too sore and not ready to repeat, I might do a second recovery mobility day, cardio day. Make it work for you, and if you need help to design these concepts to figure out how to be your healthiest, happiest, and most successful, I would love to help you do that. Contact me for a free consultation. Anthony Laporta Jr. In Home Fitness and Health, all about health, happiness, and success.